Welcome back to the XeroCon floor with Alexi Boyd from Small Biz Matters. Very pleased and excited to be welcoming Luis Sanchez from Receipt Bank, one of the big boys here at XeroCon. You've got a great long history and a great association with Xero. It's been going back for many years. I remember when I was just a baby bookkeeper that there was a little Receipt Bank pull-up banner, just a pull-up banner with two guys wearing orange, and look where you've come. I mean, it's a huge organisation now, and you must be really proud as to where it's come from in those small days and to what it's become over the last few years.
You know, it really is amazing to be at XeroCon Brisbane 2019. It's my first XeroCon, Alexi, so thank you for taking the time to interview me here. I'm really enjoying it, and you know, I've been with Receipt Bank only 11 months, so not quite a year. Here in Australia. But I'll tell you what, I met Alexis Pren 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And so I saw what it was back then. I was part of Intuit, back then. I worked for Intuit for about 9 years. And even then, I could tell that they were just so focused on accountants and bookkeepers, really building a great product and platform for them. And back then, I kind of tucked it away and went, that's a great company. I should keep in touch with Alexis. And here we are, fast forward like about 6 years. But yeah, XeroCon is great, and we are proud to have a strong team here. The booth has been very busy all day long, and it's great to see that there's a lot of people who, even though we've been around a long time, Lexi, they haven't heard of us. And so we're happy to tell them our story. I would say about 70% of the people who've come over are existing partners who want to learn more about some of our new innovations. But yeah, a lot of people who don't know who we are, which is great.
And one of the things I really like about Receipt Bank is your appreciation of the advisors. I think you were one of the first apps to say, you know what, we recognise what these people are doing for the industry and for small business, and we're going to celebrate their successes, particularly bookkeepers. And I think you do it even better than Xero does, is really celebrating the bookkeeper's role. Has that been an important aspect to the growth of Receipt Bank?
You know, it's been a huge aspect. I'll tell you, we... Just about 5 months ago, we have a new CEO, Adrian Blair. He came over from Just Eat most recently, background with Google and a few other, Spotify, a few other companies. And he's a big believer in having a crystal clear mission. What are you here to do? And so we've been working on our mission, and we just launched it internally a couple months ago. So here you go. Not a lot of people have heard it. Our mission at Receipt Bank is to power advisors to give every small business the time and confidence to succeed. So it starts with powering advisors, and really by that we mean accountants and bookkeepers. It's accounting professionals. And it absolutely has driven who we are, what our product looks like, what our platform's about, and our mission. And so we are here for accountants and bookkeepers, and we're proud to be associated with them, and we think about them every single day. And so we try to think the way they do. We try to build the product so that it'll be useful for them, and knowing that small businesses will eventually get that time and confidence from them to succeed. So it's exciting. Accountants and bookkeepers are core to what we do.
And what's interesting is that you've flipped it as well, and you've actually used the advisors to be your own advisor. You see that information as a two-way street, and you quite successfully use the opinions and the advice and sometimes the criticism of your users to improve the product. Have you seen other software companies do the same thing after you've been doing that so well?
I think if you look at the way Xero has been innovating, clearly they take advisors into account. I would say QuickBooks has been trying to do the same thing. I moved over from Intuit about a year ago, and I know they've been trying hard to look at the world from an accountant and bookkeeper perspective. But it's hard to do if it's not how you were built. You know how some companies talk about how they're built in the cloud, that type of thing. But we were built upon the shoulders of accountants and bookkeepers, and so because it's part of our DNA, it really helps us even recruit, and so we're proud to be that, and it's hard to do it well, definitely.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I was asking Hiroki from Go Cardless earlier today. Do you find that working with different regulations in different countries makes things more difficult? You're moving into the space where you're starting to do into bank statements and bank integrations, which is really exciting. But are you finding it more difficult or less difficult in Australia to sort of jump those hurdles that the regulators have in place?
I think first and foremost, innovation is fun. As the governmental regulations change, as the market changes, as competitors change, you're forced to reinvent yourself, which is exciting. It keeps us on our toes, and I can tell you, no 2 days at Receipt Bank are the same for me, which is part of what I love about my job. I would say that regulation is different in different countries. And I think Alexi, we're huge in the UK. Australia is our second largest market, but we do business in Canada, the US, France, South Africa, New Zealand, and Singapore. And so the cool thing about it is sometimes we see something happen in one market, and it helps us think ahead to, wow, what do we do about it in the other 7 or 8 markets we do business in, right? And so I would say it keeps us on our toes, but it also makes us faster moving, and that's a good thing in the long term. You can really continue to innovate and think ahead because things change, and you don't want to get surprised by the change.
Well, you're behaving just like a small business would.
Yes, we got to be agile. I was reading earlier today, right? It's not about the big eating the strong, but it's about the fast eating the slow, and that's what it's all about.
I think Receipt Bank is one of the fast, definitely, and one of the innovators here on the Xerocon floor. Well, thank you so much for joining Small Biz Matters with Alexi Boyd, Luis.
Thank you for having me, Alexi. It's always a pleasure.
And I know we've got a long-form interview coming up later in 2020 where we'll be interviewing Luis all about the developments of Receipt Bank and how basically this fantastic product, and I'm going to say it's fantastic because I have that opinion to believe that it's fantastic, is helping a small business achieve what it wants to do by removing one of the great hurdles, which is, of course, cumbersome data entry. Thank you once again for joining us on the program, Luis.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.